Hello, welcome back to Data Driven Finance, brought to you by Envestnet Yodlee. I'm Mike Stiles, and my guest today is Justin Zeidman, VP of Digital Strategy at Navy Federal Credit Union. You've probably heard of that. We're going to talk about how institutions that have been around a long time approach and adopt technological change to stay relevant and competitive in FinServ. Justin, thanks for being with us today.
Great to be here, Mike. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. We'll get really into it here. Now, Navy Federal, it's not just a credit union, it's the world's largest credit union. So, I mean, just how big is it?
Yeah, we are in fact the world's largest credit union, but we've also been around a long time. We actually just celebrated our 90th year in operation back in 2023. So credit union's been around since 1933. So had a lot of time to build up that big member base. But today we're about 13 million members strong, $170 billion in assets, and over 350 branches all around the world. So we aim to have a presence where our military members serve, and you can find our branches in places as far-flung as Florida and Virginia, also in South Korea and Japan.
Man, 1933. That's amazing to think about. Obviously, you weren't around back then.
I was not, but I've heard I've heard the stories.
Sometimes there's confusion over just who can and can't join credit unions, and I guess it depends on which one we're talking about. So, who can be a Navy Federal customer?
So each credit union is bound by a field of membership. And our field of membership focuses specifically on active duty and retired military, veterans, those that work for the Department of Defense, and their families. So while that does feel a little restrictive, you'd be surprised. We estimate that as many as 150 million Americans could qualify for membership at Navy Federal. And again, we serve around 13 million of those members today.
So, and just to be clear, it's not just Navy, it's all military?
That's right. All branches of the military, including the Space Force.
I'm going to get really Credit Union 101 here because we do have listeners at various levels of expertise. What is the difference between a credit union and a bank?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think it's a nuance for sure, but I think is incredibly important when you think about the ethos and focus of credit unions and who they are. At their core, unlike banks, credit unions are owned by their members and not by shareholders. Credit unions are not-for-profit financial cooperatives that exist specifically to serve the needs of their membership. I think this ownership structure is unique because it really orients credit unions uniquely towards the specific needs of the membership that they serve. In our case, I think that really orients us towards the specific needs and unique lifestyles of those that are in the military. I think it also really drives a unique service-oriented mentality and ethos. And at Navy Federal, we like to say, our members are the mission. I think that's true for credit unions in general, and certainly true for Navy Federal specifically.
Tell me if I'm wrong. Credit unions, it seems to me, they kind of have a perception of that personal touch, access to humans, a closer relationship to the customer. How do you approach balancing providing all the modern technology conveniences that members have kind of come to expect without going overboard and losing that human touch value proposition?
Yeah, I think it's a great point that sort of service-oriented mentality, that personal touch is in many ways the secret sauce that can kind of set credit unions apart. And I will say from our standpoint, we really strive, for both a personal touch and a presence that our members can feel, really, driving that 24/7 US-based customer service, 350 branches all around the world that sort of really provide that physical presence, even when our military members are in service abroad. But I think when you try to translate that to the digital world, and the reality is that financial interactions are increasingly moving to the digital space, it becomes critical that we sort of are able to recreate those personal human touches in a digital context. And so I think that's something that Navy Federal and my team specifically really strives to do, is to take that secret sauce, that personal touch that I think separates us in those physical servicing channels, and really replicate that in a way that surprises and delights our members in the digital realm.
We talk a lot about on this show about open banking and where that's going and connected finance. So, in your point of view, tell me what open banking and connected finance is, and where do the credit unions, including Navy Federal, stand when it comes to just kind of embracing and pursuing those concepts?
Yeah, so I mentioned that the world is increasingly moving towards digital. Financial interactions are becoming increasingly digital, and I think a part of that shift towards digital interactions is that data is becoming an incredibly important component of the servicing experience. We estimate that nearly half of our digitally active members today are sharing their financial data with a third party for a variety of use cases. And whether they realize it or not, they are participating in this connected finance ecosystem. For us, we believe that our goal is to secure those data connections that our members, might create in their interactions with third parties, and also drive unique experiences with that data that really set our credit union servicing experience apart from what they might be able to get elsewhere. And at its core, we believe that credit unions kind of have an important role to play in this ecosystem more broadly. As data exchanges become more common in this sort of connected finance ecosystem, the way we protect our members' data becomes an extension of the way we serve our members. And beyond that, with the understanding that our members are getting these sort of connected banking experiences with many of the third parties they're interacting with today, with many of the fintechs that they're doing business with today, becomes imperative that we are also bringing those experiences into our own credit union digital servicing experiences as well. So, what role do credit unions have to play in this ecosystem? I think a critical one. It's critical to understand how our members are already engaging in this ecosystem today, sometimes whether they realize it or not, and make sure that we're providing that layer of protection, that layer of security, and that layer of experience differentiation on top of some of these actions and activities that our members are either using or have become accustomed to elsewhere.
Yeah, it seems like as we're moving more toward that open banking, connected finance world, the challenge is to protect that customer experience that credit unions have come to be known for. And with financial, you touched on it here a little bit, with financial services becoming such a data driven thing, and with the pursuit of connected finance, what are the security concerns around that?
I think it's really critical that as the connected finance ecosystem evolves, that we recognize this need for members to share their financial data with third parties is becoming foundational to the way they manage their finances. And therefore, ensuring that there are more secure methods for our members to share that data becomes equally critical as well. And we believe that kind of an API-based ecosystem is really the framework that allows credit unions and banks alike to be able to participate in that financial data sharing economy in a way that is safe and secure.
Well, you make it sound like the whole, open banking thing is inevitable for credit unions. And I'm not personally, versed in how government regulations differ between banks and credit unions, but how are the regulatory forces kind of pushing things in this direction? Or are the regulations putting up a barrier to it?
I like to think that our regulators are focused on the things that are important to consumers. And I think the fact that regulators are taking an increased interest in connected finance and in the sharing of financial data is a testament to the fact that it has become so common and so ubiquitous in the market today. Up to this point, connected finance has really been something that's been market driven. Participants who are entering into that ecosystem and really building those secure APIs to facilitate the sharing of data are doing so because their members, because their consumers are asking for that capability. And so I think whether it's driven by regulation or whether it's driven by consumer demand, there is an inevitability that we'd be moving in this direction of really thinking about data sharing and secure API methods for being able to share data with third parties in many ways as an extension of digital servicing channels. At Navy Federal, we like to think of our open banking APIs as our third channel that sort of sits alongside, or our third digital channel, I should say, sitting alongside our online banking and our mobile banking environments. So I think regulation will definitely put a spotlight on these capabilities. We think that it'll drive additional attention to these capabilities. But the reality is the regulators are focusing on the activities that consumers are already engaging in. And sharing data is something consumers are already doing today. So I think that, as credit unions begin to enter into this, connected finance ecosystem, it's critical to think not just about what the regulations are requiring, but what members are asking for, and really building solutions that aren't just meeting the letter of the law, that aren't just meeting the bar set by regulation, but meeting the bar that's set by consumer expectations, really to ensure that credit unions are serving their members in every way, including this incredibly important third digital channel of financial data sharing.
Yeah, I think about how the technological changes and innovations seem to just be coming at us faster and faster and faster. And Navy Federal has been around since, like we talked about, 1933. So clearly it's seen and gone through the firestorm of change again and again and again over that time. How easy is it to implement digital transformation in organizations like these?
Yeah, I think it's never easy to lead or to go through digital transformation. But I also think the risk of not doing it is so high that it becomes critical for institutions as old as Navy Federal, as well as the newest fintech that's standing up shop today. From our perspective, we found that really the North Star for us has been taking a member centric approach to digital transformation. And I think using that as a guide has really helped us as we've moved forward. We entered into our open banking journey a few years ago, and we really started that open banking journey with a few components really front and center. A couple questions that we asked ourselves at the onset are, what are the needs of our members? And how do we develop capabilities along the lines of digital transformation, along the lines of financial data sharing that are in alignment with the needs of our members? How do we ensure the capabilities that we're building around data keep security and consent and control at the forefront? We wanted to make sure that as we built these capabilities, we were also keeping an eye towards interoperability and alignment with accepted standards and industry practices. As we really sort of began to dip our toe into the world of connected finance, one of the first things we did was take a look at what was happening across other financial institutions, across other consumers of financial data, to understand the specifications they were operating off of and ensure that we could build a solution that would be scalable and allow connectivity with all of the places that our members were already sharing data. For us, that led us to the Financial Data Exchange, where we were able to find specifications that really allowed us to kind of meet that end. And that's the specification that our APIs are built to today. And finally, we wanted to make sure that we were building in a way that maximized for our member experience. And for us, that meant not just considering, I'll call it the data out from the credit union. We wanted to make sure that we were securing the data our members were sharing externally, but also ensuring that we were building experiences that allowed our members to share information from other financial institutions with Navy Federal. That information, that data allows us to drive new self-service capabilities and personalization in ways like never before. And so for us, that digital transformation, especially as it relates to the connected banking ecosystem, was rooted in a member-centric approach to technology, and really putting the needs of the member first, the considerations for the member first, and building from there.
So, thinking about connected financial data, when people think about credit unions, I think they immediately think, oh, better interest rates on loans. Why are credit unions usually able to beat other institutions on rates? And how would more accessible financial data change the whole loan application experience for people like me when I'm trying to get a house or a car or whatever?
Well, the nature of credit unions as a not-for-profit cooperative financial institution, it allows us to return back to our members savings on rates and better yield on their deposits than they might be able to get at other financial institutions. And in many ways, as we think about the personalization opportunities that the connected banking ecosystem enables, it really helps to amplify many of the things that credit unions are already uniquely positioned to do for our membership. Leveraging member permission data to help manage finances, to help our members save money, to help them identify better rates for loans and deposits they could get at credit unions relative to what they could get elsewhere. And also opening up greater access to credit by taking into account in an underwriting decision, transaction data and deposit data that might not be reflected in a credit report is really critical. And I think all flows into the ethos and mission of credit unions more broadly to serve our members. At its core, we believe that connected data amplifies the things that make credit unions unique and play perfectly into the ethos and mentality of member service, member first in everything that we do. We see connected banking as entirely consistent with the things that credit unions stand for. And certainly at Navy Federal, these are capabilities that we've made a point to build out with members in mind, both to sort of empower them in terms of how they manage their finances and create opportunities for personalization and savings that would really set us apart.
Well, Justin, we really appreciate the insight. We talk to financial service organizations of all kinds on the show, so it's really great to get the viewpoint from the credit union side of things and how they're approaching open banking and things of that nature. So again, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Really appreciate it.
And for our listeners, make sure you subscribe to the show so you don't miss anything as we tap into these FinServ experts. And if you want to see how aggregated financial data might be of great use in your business, just visit resources.yodlee, that's YODLEE.com/podcasts. And we'll see you next time on Data Driven Finance.